In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Dear brothers and sisters, as we know, the second Sunday of Great Lent brings us to the feast day of St Gregory Palamas. And you would have heard his many contributions to the church. You would have heard his contributions to giving an intellectual justification for something that we call hesychasm. He talked about the primacy of prayer over education. He talked about the Jesus prayer. He talked about the uncreated light and the intellectual justification for each one of these experiences that real people had. He also contributed to what we call the essence-energy split, which talks about how we interact with God without encountering his essence. Of all of the Sundays of the church calendar, it seems like this one is the feast day for the ivory tower academics, of all of them. The irony is that it's the exact opposite. When the monks of Mount Athos called on St Gregory, they were being attacked by a group called the Scholastics, though in particular, those who found that the best way to God was through reading and through learning. The rejection of this has led to accusations and misconceptions that our church prioritizes being mystical and therefore opposes knowledge. The response was not to pit the mystical against the intellectual. Our faith has a long tradition, after all, of brilliance, of intellectual curiosity, of seeking truth in great depth and detail. What we acknowledge is that there is a point where the human brain, the human psyche, whatever it is, where each of us are not capable of grasping further. Things are sometimes just beyond us. It's the same sensation that we get when we read an advanced level book that is outside our own discipline, where we can read the same sentence 50 times, and we know that another 200 still won't help us. Perhaps later we can come back and work it out, but sometimes it will just always be beyond us because of the reality of life, because of the reality of who we are as humans. And for the Christian, for the Orthodox Christian in particular, aspiring to be close to God, we too will reach the same point. We'll have gone from our introductory books to our advanced books. We'll have gone from our Wares and Gilchrist and Damix. We'll have gone from Baer and Pomazansky and Schmemann all the way through to Loskin, Stanolaya, and everyone else that I've forgotten. We'll have read the Bible. We'll have read it cover to cover with our study Bible footnotes, with commentaries. And we won't have plumbed the depths. In this, the experience of our faith aligns with its history and theology. Sometimes you just hit a wall when you're striving for intellectual knowledge of God, intellectual knowledge of someone who by nature is beyond us. And it's not only understandable, it's the way that it should be. It's the way that we would expect. If we believed in a deity that was small enough to be understood, to be comprehended entirely, then he wouldn't be fit for us to worship. Indeed, this would be a creation of our own selves. We don't worship this small God. We don't worship a deity who lives and moves and has its being exclusively in the minds of any one of us. We worship a God who is bigger than space, who was around before space was anything, who was pre-eternal. In terms of C.S. Lewis's Narnia, one who was there when the deep magic of the universe began. No God that we would have thought of would have ever bothered to do for us all that we commemorated today, all that we commemorate in what's called Holy Week. The betrayal, the lashes, the rejection, the cross, the crucifixion itself, the burial, and the third day rising again. This is the God that we worship. One whose essence we can never hope to interact with, who indeed told Moses, someone who was with him for a very long time, who was close to him for a very long time, that he couldn't look on the face of the living God and live. Yet one who self-sacrificially loves us, which we know because he interacts with us and through his interactions with us. Much as we experience the sun not by standing on its surface, not for very long. We experience the sun through heat, through light, through how it interacts with all the people here, with our planet. And experience is a key word, that we experience the sun's heat and light. We experience our friends around us. We may not even understand them. We experience them. Just as we experience God, this is something that comes from the heart. In a similar way to our relationships with other people, which are born out of experience first, and then the rationalization may come a little later. First, in our relationship with God, we encounter the mystery, and then we do our best to comprehend. We learn about what God has revealed to us, and then we try to understand. We receive, we comprehend, and we act. When we started, I mentioned that this feast day seemed like a feast day for the ivory tower, of hesychasm and the uncreated light, and justifications for a one-line prayer, and splits between essence and energies. It's not that, as we've seen. It's a promise that the limiting factor in any relationship with God isn't your bookshelf, isn't an IQ, isn't a concentration span, isn't how many pants you wear through when sitting at a desk, isn't how many degrees or postnominals that you have. All of these things are good and beneficial, but the limiting factor is our prayer. How long we've been spending cultivating this relationship. How long we've been spending in regular and disciplined thanks and appreciation for all that He's done. How focused we have been during that length of time. The tears and sweat that we've exerted during this. Book knowledge about God is great, fantastic, laudable, praiseworthy, but prayer has no limits in how close we can be with God. The second Sunday of Great Lent finds us almost midway through the fast. This Sunday is our promise that all the time spent talking about God has nothing on our time spent talking to God. So let us set aside that time that we have to use productively. Let us recommit ourselves to prayer, morning, evening, meal times, and keeping ourselves close to the sacraments. Through the prayers of our Father among the Saints, Gregory Palamas, may this be the case in our lives today, this week, and always. Amen.